Hey, everybody out there in podcast land, welcome to Sports Frenzy 2.0. We're taping here April the 7th, 2021. This podcast will hit the next morning, April the 8th. I am the maestro, Kevin Crane. I am flying solo this week. Usually I am accompanied by my best friend, my brother from another mother, Dave the Conquistador Height, but not trying to violate HIPAA laws, but he took a certain shot that might have kicked his ass, and I think it waylaid him for a couple days, a little bit unexpected. So hopefully he'll be okay here another day or two. And of course, his wife, Mrs. C, one of our panel members, will be going through similar things, which I will not disclose because that would violate HIPAA laws. So you're stuck with me this week, but that's okay because you get even more politically incorrect rantings and ravings than you would normally, as the man who would keep me in check is out this week. So let's get on to, first off, the NCAA tournament has wrapped up. Wow, was that a dud? We were all waiting for March Madness to come back after it got canceled in 2020. Comes back in 2021, looked like we might have a decent tournament. We had that inevitable conflict coming through the two brackets, the two sides. We had Gonzaga, we had Baylor, clearly the best two teams. I foolishly thought Illinois might be one of those top teams, but that was idiotic on my part, so that destroyed my bracket. But from a pure viewing standpoint, we got Gonzaga and Baylor in the final game, and guess what? It sucked balls. It was terrible. I don't know if the classic game that Gonzaga had with UCLA somehow sapped all their energy, sapped all their strength. They had a day to recover, but they just didn't have anything close to the level that Baylor did. Baylor just came out. I don't think after the first couple minutes, Gonzaga got within 10 points of Baylor for the entire rest of the game. So this tournament was a letdown. We all wanted this to be a feel-good moment. We come back after a year off because of COVID. We're thinking, hey, we're going to have the greatest tournament ever. And it was good to see them back out on the court, see these kids back out playing and putting forth great effort. But outside of that Gonzaga UCLA Final Four game, which was a classic, it was a fantastic game. Overtime with the bank shot, 3-point buzzer beater. It was one of the all-time greats, but honestly, does one game really make the entire tournament great when the rest of it just sucked? Sorry. I'm very bitter because I decided to start watching this tournament when the Sweet 16 round kicked in, and between my DVR and watching live, I watched almost every minute of every game from the Sweet 16 on, and it was just unbelievably disappointing again outside of that Gonzaga UCLA thriller. So this is what you get. Baylor, very worthy champion, great team. Scott Drew, of course, took over the program when they were in disarray 18 years ago. And you want to talk about sticking with it, having a passion for it? Give it up to Scott Drew. He stuck with the Baylor program through 18 years, got them gradually better and better and better, and now he reaps the rewards as he gets the national title. So good for him, good for Baylor. On the women's side, last week we talked about the controversy with Arizona and UConn. So Arizona gets to the final game against Stanford, and I did watch the final game of that tournament as well. Really, pretty good game. I wish Arizona's head coach would have called a timeout before their final possession. They threw up a three-pointer kind of haphazardly at the end there. Did not go through, so Stanford wins their I think first title in a long time, if not ever. But if they had taken a pause, if Arizona had taken a pause, set something up, I think there were 5 or 6 seconds left on the clock, and they had it at half court. So I think they could have set something up where they could have at least tied it, sent it to overtime. But congrats to Stanford. Now, on the coaching front in college basketball, you've got a lot of changes over this past week. North Carolina, Roy Williams, legendary coach, has finally decided to hang it up. He's the only coach to win 400 games with 2 different schools, of course, the other being Kansas. So he's retired, and one of his assistants, former player for UNC, Hubert Davis, will take over. Now, here's the one that's interesting, though. So Lon Kruger retired from Oklahoma. He's been with multiple programs. He's done an unbelievable job wherever he's gone. His teams always seem to find their way into the tournament. So he finally decides to hang it up. So Oklahoma goes after Porter Moser, the head coach of Loyola Chicago, and they've, of course, had a couple great runs recently in the NCAA tournament. So you're going to have to go for greener pastures is what you're going to have to do. And that's what Porter Moser did. I am going to be really interested to see how he does with Oklahoma. I think he's going to be outstanding. From what I've seen of him with Loyola Chicago, I think he's going to be outstanding. But again, you never know. You know, Shaka Smart coming out of VCU was supposed to be the next great thing, and he really hasn't proven that he is a great head coach. So sometimes maybe like Mark Few at Gonzaga. Okay, they lost the title game, but guess what? They're the odds-on favorites to win it next year. So maybe sometimes you just slow your roll, stay where you're at, build the program up, and you turn into Gonzaga. You turn into a program that isn't considered a huge athletic juggernaut, but at the same time, now Gonzaga is considered one of the destination places for college basketball recruits across the country. Nothing wrong with that. And you got to admire Mark Few for sticking with it. Now, of course, probably tomorrow he'll quit and he'll end up getting hired at Duke or something, right? But he has built Gonzaga up to be a power in college basketball. You got to love it. You got to give him props for it. And right now, I would honestly say he's got a better program than North Carolina and probably Duke. So we'll see what happens there down the road, but congrats to Baylor again for winning the title there. Kansas gives Bill Self a lifetime contract, so I guess he's not going anywhere. And, of course, Bill Self does a really good job with Kansas. They're consistent, if not quite as great as a Duke or Kentucky. So we'll see what Kansas ends up being here with Bill Self. Maybe kind of fading on to his later years as a coach, but, you know, the name itself, Kansas, Bill Self, probably guarantees you some top recruits. Last thing on the NCAA, kind of a nice segue to go into the NBA. Iowa's Luke Garza, who I thought was going to shine here in the NCAA tournament. That's why I had Iowa going to the Elite Eight. And, of course, that was a miserable failure on my part. He won the Wooden Award. I think he also won the AP Award for Player of the Year. I'm seeing now he's projected as a late second-round pick in the NBA. I think that tells you all you need to know about the difference in what we perceive as talent on the college level and what the NBA perceives as talent. I think the NBA, they only care about potential. They want somebody athletic and long and lanky and a guy who might be a little bit undersized for a center in the NBA gets passed over. The equivalent would be a Heisman Trophy winner going into the NFL. It's very rare, at least from what I've seen over the past 20, 30 years, that a Heisman Trophy winner doesn't at least get first-round consideration in the NFL. Yet Luka Garza, late second round, wow, I would scoop him up in a heartbeat if I had a late first round pick. But it is what it is. If you've listened to the Conquistador and I, you know how we feel about the NBA. It's kind of a joke. Speaking of which, we've got Kevin Durant, who supposedly is coming back to play here in the next day or two for the New Jersey Nets. It's convenient for them because James Harden just got injured. Hamstring injury, just like the one, that Durant's coming back from. So now, the big three who have really never played together or barely played together for New Jersey, we're getting two of the three. Kyrie has decided to come back. He doesn't have any personal issues or any birthdays to deal with, so he's coming back and playing. So Durant and Irving will be your vanguard for the New Jersey Nets for a while as James Harden goes down. But, of course, he got in trouble because he and the actor Michael Rappaport were going back and forth on social media. And, of course, Kevin Durant's notorious for this. He does this all the time. I don't know why he can't just stay off social media, but he thinks, he's a be-all, end-all. He's another one who thinks that his opinions matter more than most. The problem is, different from like us here at Sports Frenzy 2.0, Kevin Durant curses and swears all the time, can't put together 3 or 4 coherent sentences together in a row. Yet he thinks he's Aristotle. He thinks he's Shakespeare. He thinks he's speaking for generations upon generations, and he thinks he's speaking for the poor, the downtrodden. Kevin Durant's turning out to be a moron, and he just needs to slow his roll, shut up, play basketball, get healthy, win a championship or two without Steph Curry, and then maybe we'll start taking you seriously. All right, dude? And, of course, you got the virtual trading card situation here with the NBA, where now Dapper Labs, a Canadian company, by the way, which I find ironic, gets $305 million in private funding from a group, including Michael Jordan, to scale up, quote unquote, their virtual trading card site. So, yeah, all you people that grew up like I did in the late 80s and early 90s, where we were actually stupid enough to buy physical trading cards, thinking, those Shaq O'Neal and Michael Jordan and Ken Griffey Jr. cards, the upper deck ones, the tops, were going to be worth something. Well, they still are, but at the same time, now it's all going to be on your phone. It's all going to be virtual, which I find absolutely ass backwards ridiculous. So there you go. Segment 1 is done this week for Sports Frenzy 2.0. We'll be right back. I will give you my takes on the opening week of baseball. Hang out, kids. We'll be right back. What's up, my peeps? Check out Sports Frenzy 2.0, the podcast. Now available on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Pocket Casts, and Breaker. I am the maestro, Kevin Crane, and along with the conquistador, Dave Height, we tear down the hypocrisy and stupidity of the modern sports world like nobody else can. We're definitely not politically correct, so if you've got a problem with that, I refer all of you woke lemmings out there to the immortal words of Forrest Gump. Stupid is as stupid does. Hey kids, welcome back to Sports Frenzy 2.0. I am the maestro, Kevin Crane. The conquistador, Dave Height, is out this week, so there's no one to keep me in check. Get ready for some ranting and raving. We are available on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Casts, and Breaker, with new episodes dropping every Thursday morning. I am recording this on the 7th of April, 2021. First segment was all about March Madness, and I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge one of our panel members, Sam the Elder Statesman, for winning our annual Frenzy Madness competition. He gets the trophy. First time in, I think, over a decade that he's won this. So good for him. He won 41 out of 67 possible games. Not necessarily the greatest score in the world. We've had better, but did the trick. So congrats to Sam. Now, we'll move on. Me going solo this week, I will rip apart the first week of the Major League Baseball season, both on and off the field. Of course, Dave will always give me a hard time for pulling politics into our show, but I'm not the one that does it. It's people like Rob Manfred that do it, and he did it again with moving the All-Star game out of Georgia because he got pressure from sponsors and other political groups over the recently passed voting law. I don't like the fact they did this. I think it's garbage. I think this proves that Rob Manfred is a weak commissioner. Along with Adam Silver, he does not have a backbone. He does not have a spine. You stand up to people like this. You stand up to the woke crowd and you tell them, no, we'll do what's best for our sport. We'll do what's best for our game. But no, Rob Manfred couldn't do that. So he bailed on Georgia and he moved the All-Star game to Coors Field in Colorado. Hippie bastion of North America, maybe next to Seattle. So now everybody can smoke a joint while they watch a game that bores them to tears. Congrats, Rob. I used to think Adam Silver was the worst commissioner of all the major sports. Now I think you are by a mile. Do not dunk your head in the political pool. Don't do it. And this is what you've done with Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball is already on a high wire. You're facing a strike/lockout next year. You've got teams that are already paying young players $350 million. I admit last week I called out Francisco Lindor. I said, hey, why are you turning down a 10-year, $325 million deal? Oh, you know why? You dumbass maestro? Because I can get 10 years and $341 million if I wait a couple days, and that's exactly what happened. Now, granted, the $325 million would have been straight up front money. Now with the $341 million deal, he's got deferred money. And if you listen to economic experts, they will tell you that deferred money is not worth as much as money here and now. So maybe the Mets got the better of the deal. Maybe Lindor did. I don't know. All I know is he's overpaid. We just saw Fernando Tatis Jr., my pick for MVP for 2021, get a huge deal. And then what happens? Within a week, he tears up his shoulder. He's on the IL, and he's probably done for a month, I would imagine, minimum. Scary injury. Could have been worse, but still, I think we're looking at 2-3 weeks, maybe a month at least. But again, we'll get into this argument later on. Guaranteed contracts are terrible for sports. And I don't care what you think about the poor athlete. Oh, he's only going to make $200 million as opposed to $100 million. They're set for life. Why do you stick up for these people? It should be more like football. The model for football works. Part guaranteed. And then if you don't perform, you hit the road after 3 or 4 years. You get enough to live by, okay? 30, 40 million? Oh, yeah, you might be able to afford some Dinty Moore beef stew down the road, okay? Let's stop crying and whining for the people that get 30, 40, 50 million guaranteed, underperform, and get cut. Yet they've still got enough to buy a Bugatti, all right? Let's not shed tears for them. Anyway, going to the teams that we follow and we love, Anybody who follows Sports Frenzy, especially over the years before we were a podcast, when we were on cable access or on YouTube, know that I am a diehard Cubs fan. The Conquistador is a diehard White Sox fan. As we're taping this, both teams are 3-3. White Sox game is pending. Looks like they're going to win, so they might go 4-3. But I just want to point out how pathetic the 3-3 mark is for the Cubs. 19 runs in 6 games. Batting average through 5 games of 132. 21 total hits in 6 games. That would be last in Major League Baseball in almost all of those categories. David Ross was a bad hire. I said it from the beginning. All my friends who are Cubs fans, oh no, David Ross, he's a Cub. He was on the World Series team. He's going to lead us to the promised land again. I said no. I said he's going to be a buddy to Chris Bryant. He's going to be a friend to Anthony Rizzo. He is not going to have the balls, the cojones, to tell these guys, you're playing like crap. Step it up. And sure enough, you look at the COVID-shortened season of last year, and you look at what's going on so far this year over the first week. This team can't hit. Javi Baez is a piece of garbage. Chris Bryant's not much better. Anthony Rizzo, who I love, who I have said should be the new Mr. Cub, is not much better. Now I'm beginning to wonder if Tom Ricketts doesn't know what he's doing. I've called the man out for being a cheapskate. Yet now I'm looking at this team for 2+ years. They can't hit. So why not get rid of them all? Why not trade them all for assets? Give me a reason why. Again, I don't understand what the hell you got to do to motivate these players to play better. You give them money, it doesn't work. You don't give them money, it doesn't work. The Cubs have got all these guys on 1-year deals or the last year of arbitration. And it still doesn't motivate them. You would think they would want to play better to earn more money. And they don't give a rat's ass. All right, I'm going to speak for Dave on this because the White Sox, again, as I said, 3-3. They look like they're going to go 4-3 as I'm taping. They have almost the exact opposite problem the Cubs do. You know, they've got to worry about their pitching, and their pitching's not bad. And we talked about our predictions last week for the whole season, and we both figured that the White Sox would be good. And they are. They're going to be fine. But, I mean, they're scoring 12 runs on April the 2nd, 10 runs on April the 6th. The Cubs, 19 runs in 6 games. Again. What, maybe they, again, Cubs need to blow it all up. Maybe all these prospects they got in the Yu Darvish trade, start playing them. Drop your payroll down below the Pittsburgh Pirates. Yeah, they're doing great. They're doing awesome. So let's be the next Pittsburgh Pirates. I'm not begrudging what I see as potential success for the White Sox this year. I think they're going to be great, even without Eloy Jimenez. But it's just pathetic that the Cubs, year after year now, cannot hit the baseball. Poor Kyle Hendricks is sitting out there today against the Brewers, throws 6 shutout innings. Worthless. Doesn't do him any good. Can't get a win. He's got a $14 million contract. Hayward's probably 26. And next year, if you got rid of everybody, you clear the decks. Seriously, the Cubs might have a $70, $80 million payroll. We'll be right back, kids. Hey there, kids. The Sports Frenzy 2.0 podcast is now available on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Casts, and Breaker. New episodes drop every Thursday. I'm the maestro, Kevin Crane, and along with the conquistador, Dave Height, we'll pass along our unique takes on the world of sports, along with the usual maniacal ranting and raving you've come to expect from us over the years. And don't forget to check out new episodes of our weekend edition every Saturday morning exclusively on Spotify and Anchor. Movie reviews, television and streaming news, and of course, two hard rock fossils trying to save the music we love. As JJ Jimmy Walker would say, it's dynamite! Hey everybody, welcome back to Sports Frenzy 2.0, the podcast. I am the maestro, Kevin Crane, flying solo this week. We are available on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Pocket Casts, and Breaker. New episodes drop every Thursday morning. It's time for our weekly NASCAR recap and look forward. There is no recap this week because there was no race last week. They take Easter weekend off in the Cup Series, so we're looking ahead to the Blue Emu 500 at Martinsville coming up this Saturday night, April the 10th. And our panel has got a little conformity going here. We have not been able to pick a winner yet this year. We're on race 8. And usually we do a pretty good job of doing research and figuring out among the 8 of us a winner here or there. I don't know if it's because of the changes in the NASCAR schedule, the dirt race you threw in there, but we have not picked a winner yet. So this week, everybody's going with the odds-on favorite, Martin Truex Jr. Out of our 8 panelists, 7 of us are taking Martin Truex Jr. at Martinsville this Saturday night. The one dissenter, and I knew this was going to happen because he's not here, he's holed up, sick as a dog, so maybe he's got a fever, maybe that's influencing him going off in a different direction, but the conquistador, Dave Height, is taking Brad Keselowski. Obviously not a bad pick. Kez is really good at Martinsville, so we'll see what happens. I'll tell you this. I could see Denny Hamlin winning this. I could see Chase Elliott winning this. Truex starting in the top 10. Just, I had to go with the crowd because he has been running really well this year. 1 win. Couple times he could have won if he wasn't overly aggressive. So I'm hoping he's not going to be that way at Martinsville here this Saturday. I think right now he is the best driver out there along with Kyle Larson. So I think Truex is a good pick. Of course, they're testing the rain tires. They will not be used this weekend at Martinsville, but I think NASCAR is starting to look into the fact that people are tuning out on a lot of these races when they have to delay them to Monday or late at night on Sunday. So they're thinking maybe at a track like Martinsville or a normal Bristol race, if you weren't on dirt or you weren't already at night, you go ahead and run the rain tires. So they've run some rain tire tests at Martinsville. We'll see how that turns out for next year. Maybe you put the wipers on, the rain tires on, save yourself from losing some viewers who've got to work on Monday, who can't watch a 2 p.m. race on FS1. Now, I've heard also that the next gen car, which they want to bring in for 2022, cannot run on the Bristol dirt track. So they may make an exemption and let the 2021 car stick for that race only. Every other race, they'll use the next-gen car for 2022, but they might stick with the 2021 model for the Bristol Dirt Race because, from what I've heard, the 2022 next-gen car will just plow through the dirt and it'll be a disaster. So, hopefully they'll do the right thing, figure it out. And And then, of course, speaking of figuring it out, Carl Edwards, we've been waiting for him to figure it out for years and years since he, quote unquote, retired from NASCAR. It was a shame, too. When Carl left, he was a great driver. A lot of personality, loved the backflip whenever he'd win a race. He left the sport early. Now, of course, suspicions have been confirmed he wants to go into politics, but in a recent interview, he said that he might do a one-off on a road course. So we'll see if he pops up here at one of these road courses. They've added a couple here this year, so we'll see if Carl Edwards actually comes back to NASCAR, the Cup Series, for one more race, one more go-round before he gets into the mud, the politics. Oh, God. God bless him. All right, let's move over to golf real quick because we rarely get to talk about this. Usually on Sports Frenzy, we only discuss golf when the majors are up. And, of course, the Masters is coming up this weekend. We're taping here. This episode is April the 7th. So tomorrow morning, they will start teeing off in the first round at Augusta. I'm not going to tell you who I think is going to win. I think that's a crapshoot. I've always thought that trying to pick who's going to win a major championship in golf is just ridiculous. The thing I'm not looking forward to for the Masters is the nonstop Tiger Woods tributes, the drama, the red shirts all over the place. Justin Thomas probably going to break down in tears because Tiger's my best friend and he was hurt in a car wreck. Guess what? Came out today. The Tiger was probably going 84 to 87 miles an hour in a 45 mile an hour zone. And that helped contribute to the horrific crash he was in. Now, of course, we here at Sports Frenzy do not wish harm on anyone. But, personally, again, the conquistador is not here. So this is just the maestro speaking. I don't know if it could happen to a better person than Tiger Woods because I don't like him. I never have. He is an abuser of drugs, of women. He cheated on his wife. Yet everybody follows in line like lemmings and says, we have to love Tiger Woods because he was a great golfer. No, you don't. No, you don't. Don't be a lemming. Don't follow the crowd. Tiger Woods is a bad person. Just because they can't prove that he was on drugs or he was under the influence of something here, on a public road, remember what I said earlier. He was driving 84 to 87 miles an hour in a 45 mile an hour zone. And I don't care if the California police, the California sheriff on the scene says that, all these people speed on this road. This stretch of road is hazardous. I don't give a rat's ass. If there is a posted speed limit sign and you're 40 miles an hour over the posted speed limit, you're doing something wrong, borderline criminal, and you're putting other people at risk. What would have happened if he'd have killed a mother with 2 children strapped into car seats in the back? What would you people think of Tiger Woods then? But because he got lucky again, because somehow he figures out a way to squirt between the lines and squirt between the cracks, drug abuse, alcohol, cheating on his spouse with strippers and exotic dancers, you people still gravitate to him. You still love him. Think about what you would think about your spouse if they behaved like Tiger Woods behaves. Look at yourself in the mirror. You tell me that you would love your spouse, your husband, your wife. your significant other if they did that to you. But somehow we still go, oh, let's wear the red shirts in tribute to Tiger Woods. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. He's not a good person. I don't care how many goddamn green jackets he's got. This is the problem with society. Stop kowtowing to what the media tells you. Stop kowtowing to what CBS tells you with this week's non-stop coverage of Tiger Woods is great. Tiger Woods is glorious. Tiger Woods is an asshole. And until you people figure this out, this country will never be better. This country will never steer itself back onto the right path. I told you there were rants coming, but you didn't believe me. There you go. All right. Some NFL news here before we wrap it up this week. Speaking of assholes, Deshaun Watson, now we're up to 22 lawsuits with 50 different massage therapists. Now, 2 of these women, I'm not going to call them alleged victims because at this point, with this number of lawsuits, it'd be really hard for me to say 22 people are lying. Sorry, but the numbers bear it out. But 2 women have attached their names to these lawsuits, and now we're starting to see the commercial ramifications of this. Now Deshaun Watson's going to start feeling it in the pocketbook. Nike and Beats by Dre have both suspended their deals with Deshaun Watson. We will give you more updates on this down the road, but just think about what's happening. Look at the information. Do the logic. Think it out. 50 different massage therapists, 22 lawsuits. Now the corporate sponsors are bailing. Not looking good for Deshaun Watson. Aaron Rodgers on Jeopardy! I'm going to leave the actual review of this for the Conquistador next week. I haven't watched him per se, but I did get a kick out of the clip I saw from Monday where a Bears fan who was on the show trolled him, wrote down, who wanted to kick that field goal in the playoffs last year? So I'm not going to say anything more. Just, it's funny. It's kind of funny. A little bit of humor there. Of course, the last thing is the NFL, the Jets trade Sam Darnold to Carolina for a 2nd and 4th round pick in 2022 and a 6th in 2021. Sorry, I don't buy that Sam Darnold is great or good in any way, shape, or form. I'm glad the Bears did not jump into that pool. I don't know. Matt Rule must think he's the next God's gift to coaching. Yeah, we've seen that before with Chip Kelly. So now what happens with Teddy Bridgewater? I thought last year Teddy Bridgewater was the be-all, end-all for the Panthers. So I think the Panthers are a mess. Yeah, the owner, Tepper, he's another great example of what's wrong with this country, is that he's got a ton of money and he wants to rework America into his own vision. So the only problem is he just doesn't seem like he can run a football team. So there you go. Deal with that, Roger Goodell. All right. Don't have any moments of silence in sports this week, but to wrap up this week's Sports Frenzy, I have got a couple dumbasses. Opening day in Major League Baseball. Dodgers are great. Dodgers are off to a great start, but the first day, Cody Bellinger hits a home run, but Justin Turner was on first base, thought the ball had been caught when it actually went over the fence. So Justin Turner, after Cody Bellinger passes him on the base pass, turns back around. So guess what? Home run negated. It's an RBI single. Way to go. It must suck, though, for the Dodgers that, they have one dumbass moment among the the fact that they're the greatest team in baseball right now. So it kind of tempers it a little bit. So it's kind of a mini dumbass award. So my final Red Foreman award this week goes to Paul Pierce, who I never liked when he was playing basketball. Kind of thought he was kind of a punk to begin with. Now, there's rumors that he wanted to get fired from ESPN, but if you're going to do it, hey, here's a way to do it. Post a video on Instagram while you're playing poker, smoking cigarettes, and drinking with exotic dancers, strippers, dancing behind you. So if that was his grand scheme, was to get rid of ESPN, get fired, good for you, Paul. If that was not your plan, you are an ultimate dumbass. Thanks for listening this week, kids. Hopefully, Dave will be back next week. Listen to the weekend edition this coming Saturday morning. We love you. Bye-bye.